Hey there! Another in real life vlog video situation. This time, we're talking about Baldur's Gate, which includes more than one game. If you've watched the first one of these in real life sort of vlog videos, you'll remember that in that very first video, we sort of already touched on Baldur's Gate and sort of what was coming up. However, I noticed, and this is, like I said, this is sort of a learning process for me with how to handle this situation, or these like sorts of videos as update videos and whatnot. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust the mic here. We still got a whole bunch of questions about Baldur's Gate despite covering it in that video, and that's because Baldur's Gate just wasn't in the title, right? I had it in the description, but nobody really knew that it was about Baldur's Gate, so people who were interested in Baldur's Gate news as it pertains to here weren't aware that it was in that video. Anyway, we're doing this one that is titled appropriately. The big question right now is, are we going to do Baldur's Gate 3? And the answer is, of course, yes, we are going to, of course, be doing Baldur's Gate 3. However, it will be at some point in the future. If you've paid attention to the channel's history, or you've been following for quite a while, you'll have seen that we've already got Baldur's Gate 1 and the sort of future expansion, Siege of Dragonspear, both of those completed, right? And before we move on to Baldur's Gate 3, although Baldur's Gate 3 is like the new hotness right now and everybody's talking about it, and frankly, I'm super interested and excited to play it eventually, I do want to get through Baldur's Gate 2 for the sake of my own continuity and all of that, right? I do want to experience Baldur's Gate 2, which in and of itself, although it's an oldie, it's a goodie, right? It's a seminal classic and a very formative game, right, for a lot of role-playing games going forward. So, before we play Baldur's Gate 3, we will be doing all of Baldur's Gate 2, similar to how we did 1 in Siege of Dragonspear, which will be Shadow of Amn and, what's the other one? The Throne of Baal, right? That's what it is. I think there's also the Black Pits Part 2 as part of the Enhanced Edition that Beamdog did, but I think we'll avoid that, similar to what we did with the Black Pits Part 1 for Baldur's Gate 1, because it was like a kind of divorced from the narrative threads of the core game. And as far as I know, there's like zero continuity or reason to do it, even if you're purely interested in how things impact or show up in Baldur's Gate 3. On the plus side, if you are playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now, you don't have to worry about spoilers or anything like that, which we will talk about my sort of policy on spoilers probably next week or so, what with Starfield coming out. And if you're a longtime follower, and especially if you listen to the Morrowind annuals and all of that, you're probably already familiar, or you just pick up sort of how I do things. But we'll talk about that in the future, probably next week, very likely. For Baldur's Gate 2, when are we starting Baldur's Gate 2? Originally, I had said that I wanted to start it very shortly after ending Fallout 2, which I have finished recording all of Fallout 2 by now. Although it hasn't completely gone up, I was kind of excited to see the ending and all of that, and sort of get it finished up and be ready to move on to Baldur's Gate 2. Unfortunately, we can't quite yet move full steam ahead with that just yet. Originally, I had said that I was hopeful that we could maybe have it to where there's no typical break period, because I was able to have like a pretty good break period between Skyrim. Since we had wrapped up Skyrim, I had a decent break. And I felt like, yeah, we could hit Fable, we could hit Baldur's Gate 2 just shortly after Fallout 2 ends, and then we could run right into Starfield when that drops September. Unfortunately, like I'm saying, things are going to have to change ever so slightly. We will be partaking in a bit of a break period for the period between Fallout 2 and Baldur's Gate 2 in that CRPG slot, right? We will actually be taking that break. That is because some sort of some unforeseen stuff has cropped up. I don't know exactly how to word this. Well, so there's been sort of a family emergency situation. Don't get too super alarmed for my sake or anything like that. It's a family emergency on my partner's side of her immediate family. Sort of the situation with that is I want to effectively be able to be there when needed, right? I want to be on call and able to do stuff when necessary during this period. So I want to take advantage of that break period and of the fact that being fortunate enough to do this, you are allowed to sort of pick your hours, so to speak, right? I think I can very easily fit stuff in and have very minimal impact, and I think I'll be just totally fine. Should the need arise, like I said, on call, we may need to skip a day. Like I said already, tentatively, with Fable and with Starfield going forward, I think I've always sort of qualified that in case something does happen, or I need to, or whatever, and I said specifically during like the holidays, right, which was very expected, take a day off, miss a day, or days, something like that, if it's needed. And in this case, this is a situation where I think it's probably going to be needed at some point or another. Yeah, all in all, I think it's mostly an okay situation, right? Like I'm saying, I can't really go into more detail because it's not my place to say, right? If you know where I'm coming from. Rest assured, if I need to take a break or something like that, or I need to do something and I'm preoccupied that day or during that period of time, we'll just take a break from the regularly scheduled stuff. If I don't have stuff already scheduled, anticipate that's why I will have missed something. It's because I'm busy handling that. Otherwise, I think we're totally good. Like I said, there is a great sort of luxury in being able to do this, in that you're able to, I don't know, sort of cut out your own chunks of time relative to, if you work for someone or something, you are sort of beholden to your own time schedule. In this case, right, I'm taking advantage of what the affordances here, so to speak. So yeah, all of that is going on. Like I said, to reiterate, for the most part, I'm doing all right. I'm just trying to make myself available and helpful as best as I can in this time. And I anticipate there will be plenty of downtime. It's sort of a situation where, like I said, being on call is such a good, I feel like, allegory or way to phrase it, right? If I'm needed, I'll be needed, and then I'll take time and I'll skip a period of time or a video or something like that. And I'll probably put out a tweet or something along those lines, or you just won't see a video that day, right? And this will continue on for probably as long as is needed. We'll see how it progresses into Starfield period and going forward. If I end up having more time, then we'll begin Baldur's Gate 2 sooner. But especially right now, a few things are coming up, and it is kind of imperative that I don't be super duper busy. So the current level at which we're going is entirely a-okay, right? I think the current situation is entirely okay. But like I said, all that's tentative, just in case, just as like a backup. If you see a missed video or something like that, that is why, right? That is why. But otherwise, like I said, for the most part, it's all good as far as the channel's concerned. That's okay as far as I'm concerned for my own self, my own well-being. That's all good. Putting all of that at the forefront, of course, right? Don't worry about any of that. No, don't have any concerns. Don't be too concerned about any situation like that. This is me going forward and making the adequate and appropriate steps, I feel, right? This is me having the wherewithal, the forewarning ahead of time. This is me putting out a warning in advance. So hopefully all that is served up well. Hopefully that makes sense. And like I said, as things cool down, we will spin up Baldur's Gate, and I am still very excited for Starfield, which will, of course, unless something happens on the day of Starfield, and I am required to, then we may miss a day or two of Starfield's opening period. But nonetheless, like I said, it's more of it's not a constant situation. It's more of a on-call situation. Like I said, being on call when needed as sort of support and backup, so to speak. That's definitely more the situation is. I'm sure a lot of folks know exactly sort of what I'm talking about and getting at here. But yeah, otherwise, that's the idea going forward. Baldur's Gate 3 will be happening, but first we have to do Baldur's Gate 2. This video, titled as such because we've gotten such a wealth of comments and questions from folks asking about, will I be doing Baldur's Gate 3? Because it's just absolutely blowing up in popularity, and it's got the PlayStation release as well coming up in weeks or something like that. On the flip side, we got Baldur's Gate 2 going on, which means if you're at all wary of spoilers, Baldur's Gate 2 is going to be your way to go, as well as Baldur's Gate 1, of course, which we've already got playthroughs for. Very likely next week, we will talk about more on my spoiler policy and sort of make it more formalized for here, right? Have a in real life video that people can refer to if they want, or that other people in the comments can also refer to, right? Yeah, I think it's all working out pretty good. That's the plan. I think it's going to go great. I'm very confident in it. All right, until next time, please take care of each other.